Welcome back, everybody. I am so excited to have you guys here on the show today. I'm talking to one of my favorite people that I actually met at a conference about a month ago. And we were kind of chatting, and one of her employees was like, I've really been trying to get her on a podcast. And I was like, I have a podcast. You should come over here. So I'm super excited to be sitting down with Dr. Keri Franci. And honestly, I felt like from the moment I sat down, I think you were the first person I actually talked to while I was there. And I was like, she brought two of her employees with her, and they were just phenomenal. And so she's a naturopath by trade. So I wanted to bring her on and just have a lot more conversations around natural medicine, the evolution of how that looks. And so I'm so, so happy that you're here.
Thank you for having me today. I appreciate it. It was
Yeah.
very fun to meet you, actually.
I know, it was like, you guys made my weekend.
Had a good time. We did.
Yeah, we kind of had some interesting conversations over the weekend. We were at this conference that was put on by a homeopathic company. They develop homeopathic products, and so they're kind of already in that natural world. And what I found, I think in one of our conversations, I was like, "Oh, this is so interesting." So Dr. Keri is from Nebraska, and we were kind of talking about how the different cultures, different places, make it difficult to you're either trying to, not to say convince people, but you're like, hey, there's actually a lot of evidence behind this. This actually works. We've had great results with these things. Or some places, I think, like LA, like Austin, Texas, even here in Las Vegas, they're a lot more open to alternative, quote unquote, alternative paths of medicine. So I would love to hear a little bit about your story and kind of where you're from, and share with everybody just how you kind of ended up in, again, doing something that's a little bit of against the grain in the area of the country that you're in.
Yeah, for sure. I would totally agree with you on that because it's naturopathic medicine, functional medicine, however you want to word it. It's definitely more common and more spoken about either on the West Coast or the East Coast. So, with me being centrally located, we're actually in Grand Island, Nebraska. So we're right in the middle of the state. And we have a large farming community around us. And naturopathic medicine hasn't been, I started 11 years ago. So 11 years ago, it was way less more common.
Yeah.
Today, you're seeing more people that are becoming more aware of the more natural types of healing for medicine. So that's a really great thing for me because, in the beginning, I was getting the people that I was their last hope.
So I've done everything.
Exactly. Yeah.
No pressure.
Okay.
God.
So, and that's okay. But at the same time, we're really looking at preventative medicine
Yeah.
instead of here. I'm not a quick fix. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? My story actually starts back in the 6th grade for me. I was pretty sick as a kid and had a lot of sinus infections, ear infections, a lot of antibiotics, and those weren't working for me. So my parents at the time took me to a chiropractor who was going to our church, and he was doing standard process nutrition at the time. He did all the muscle testing and he fixed my neck. I didn't have that nice curve in my neck. That was also affecting my sinuses.
Yeah.
He fixed me. And so he just became our doctor. And we went to him for everything that we needed at that time. So that was, back in the 80s. And then when I was 20, I married my husband, and my mother-in-law had my business that I have right now, which is Alternative Answers. She was doing homeopathics and herbals out of her home and doing the muscle testing.
Yeah.
So she taught me everything that she knew. I learned a lot of things from my chiropractor, who I had literally went to him for years. And that's how it all began. I was muscle testing in my early 20s. I was helping people and helping myself, helping my kids. And my kids grew up on homeopathics, herbs, nutrition, all the good stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Well, and what a blessing to have, and I feel like what a blessing and a privilege, because in a sense, for so long, allopathic medicine was pushed as the only way. and like everything else, like quote unquote, didn't work. And I was like, well, how do you think you found your active ingredients? Because for your pharmaceuticals, because they work.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like those come from herbs.
They
And
do.
like, and I don't
Everybody knows that.
know. And that's where I'm like, I just don't think what's happened is I don't think people have ever been given the full story, and that's on purpose. But I do feel like in that sense, like it's disempowered parents to be able to take care of their children in the home, for every little thing as a panic. And I see it. It's interesting because I feel very similar. Although my mom was never like officially trained or anything like that, she did. I always, I was like a kitchen nurse. It's kind of always what I say. Like we were always taking a supplement. We were taking a wheatgrass shot. We were taking, again, like an herb or a homeopathic remedy. Like we were always taking something like that. And part of ours stemmed from actually just not being able to afford insurance. And so my mom was like, I can't take you. We can't afford to go to the doctor for all these little things. And I think when you start to do that, you start to realize, oh, there's so many more options for me. And I feel a lot more confident in myself that when something happens to my child, I don't panic. And I think it's like taking back a lot of that like sovereignty for yourself.
Yes. And just this comes to mind when you're talking about that, but we just recently had a full morning seminar where we were teaching moms how to muscle test. Like here's how you do a basic muscle test for your kid at home so that you can figure out
what's going on.
Yeah, and do that first before you actually go to the doctor, because a lot of times it'll correct.
Yes.
And I'm all about empowering parents because they can do that. They can do that kind of a thing at home and have power to do that.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is how people also don't understand, I think, how gentle homeopathy is. Gentle but powerful is always how I say it. It's like water, how, water can either be a tsunami or it can be a drip. But the drip can literally erode an entire rock and allow it to crack in half. So like water is powerful either way. And I feel like pharmaceuticals come in like the tsunami, and like homeopathy or herbs or nutraceuticals, like all of those come in more like the drip. And it's like, here, let's like encourage the direction that we want things to move, but without that force that has a tendency to tear everything down.
Yeah.
I love that you're doing that for parents. Is that something, it's just in person? They can't find it. You're not offering like anything online or anything. Yeah.
I haven't really thought about that yet, but that's a good point. We can do that.
Yeah. Just throwing it out there.
Good point.
Yeah, Dr. Keri and I spent, I feel like, one whole evening just like the table of us just like talking business stuff. Like as much as it was like learning about, different things and stuff like that, it was a lot of, just talking about business and talking about the change and change in the, I think, the wellness industry. I have a hard time with wellness because I think so many things get lumped into that sometimes that I don't always think are for wellness, but that's okay. People mean well a lot of times. But we kind of talked about this before the episode, and I would love to talk about your kind of focus has a tendency to be a lot on detox, and there's so many buzzwords around it, and like
definitely is.
And everybody's like, well, I think I need this detox or that detox. And like, I would love to know your perspective as a practitioner, the difference over even just practicing, the 11 years or whatever. And just, I mean, it sounds like even though you weren't technically practicing, you were in that world for so long. I would love to hear about what you think the biggest shift has been in that realm. Like, who needs it more? What's going on with our bodies? What things have changed?
For me and what I see in my practice, there's a lot of different health issues that come in that we see. Either if you're talking about gut problems or somebody who isn't sleeping or chronic fatigue or hormone imbalances, there's a plethora of things that we see. However, the common denominator is detox. And I would say for me, I've seen this more post-COVID related. A lot of people are they're just congested.
Yeah.
Our bodies are made to detox. It's just when our pathways are not working in that capacity where we begin to feel not ourselves.
Yeah.
And, for me, my detox process for my own life has just been, it's, I don't want to say ongoing because I don't want to come across like I'm constantly detoxing because that's not what's happening. But in the process of getting well and better, you do have to make sure your drainage pathways are open, meaning your gut, your liver, your kidneys, your lymph, your skin, your lungs, because if they're becoming ingested, then again, we're going to start feeling not ourselves. We're going to start
Yeah.
feeling. For me, my biggest journey has been in the Lyme area. I would say probably 12 to 15 years ago, I was bit by a tick. It literally took me out to the point where I couldn't move off my chair. And my kids were little at that time. And so I actually, at that time, I called my mother-in-law because she had all the homeopathics.
Yeah. You're like,
Her
this is style. Yeah.
So she's a great mother-in-law, but she came over and she muscle tested me and finally found that it was Lyme. And she had said, "Hey, did you happen to pull a tick off?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, I just did 5 minutes ago coming into the house."
Jeez.
And this was literally the same homeopathic company that you and I were
Yeah. Yeah.
took the first file of that and symptoms completely went away. So
Wild.
I say that in the fact that, first of all, homeopathy does work.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I didn't know how I was really using it. I didn't know what to do with it. I went through one of their detox boxes and then that was it. So unfortunately, it came back to bite me in the butt a couple of years later.
Mhm.
And it's been a process for me because in learning with that, it's not just Lyme, it's parasites, it's mold, it's heavy metals, it's
Yeah.
all these things that need to be cleared up in order for your body to really be healthy and well again. So, and then obviously, cleaning up the drainage pathways as well. So that is the majority of what I went through personally, but it's been literally years for me. And a lot of people really think that, I'm going to take this supplement or this medication and I'm going to get better just like that. But
Yeah.
we're all so uniquely made and designed, and not everybody detoxes the same way. Not everybody methylates the same way. And so it's not just something that we can look up on Dr. Google.
I mean, right now I feel like it's Dr. Chat.
Dr. Chat.
Yeah, Chatty G, as I lovingly call him.
Exactly. Yes.
I don't know why it's a him. I bet.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Chatty G is not a girl.
Maybe it's a lady.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's a terrible thing, but I am saying that when you're talking about really getting healthy and well, you want somebody who's actually gone through the process and who knows how to do it for you. Because like I said, not everybody is the same. Not everybody's going to need exactly what I needed.
Right.
And so that's just an important piece in order to detox well.
Well, and even like you're saying, like everybody is different. I talked to a lot of my clients about this, that I'm like, when you come to me with not only like whatever your specific physical symptoms are, but you also come with a unique emotional state that you've developed over years. You come with a specific belief system. I talked about this a little bit on social media, but I did kind of a social experiment a little bit on social media, and I started wearing a white coat that said, Dr.Shalane Carter on it. Yeah. For certain, like, I would record certain videos, and I would record almost the exact same video, but without the white coat. And to watch the engagement every single time, pretty much, when I wore a white coat, significantly more engagement. Because people associate the white coat with being able to help me become more well, be able to work with me. But, I'm just Joe Schmo in my t-shirt. And right. So it's like when somebody comes to you, they're coming with a structure like that of like, I believe certain things about health. I believe certain things about healing. I believe certain things about products or supplementation, or there's so many people that are like, we don't need to detox. And I was like, says the person who literally their pee is yellow. They never sweat. And you know what I mean? I'm like, no, I was like, they've got swollen lymph nodes. And I was like, you literally, like, all your pathways are blocked. They're stuck.
Exactly.
They're full. You're backed up. And it's like, if you were
Like taking
detoxing,
the trash out at night.
yes, if you were detoxing well, this would not be happening. So it's like, I also think, again, that the narrative that has been, I want to be careful with my words, has been, I don't want to say spewed, but spread out in the world, is that, again, like, your body knows how to detox. Yes. And we live in an environment that has more toxins than it has ever had before. And when you get a bucket that normally drains well and you start putting dirt in it, don't you think it plugs the holes? You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's like, yes, our bodies do naturally detox. However, they have to be able to process these things out. And when you put more crap in and you get crap out, you're just full of crap.
Exactly.
Oh,
Exactly. You're not making much progress. Let's just put it that
no,
way.
no. And it's not that, again, you don't, kind of like you're saying, you don't need to be on a detox all year long. Your body does detox every single day a little bit. But, I have clients that come to me. I can think of one person in particular that she started coming to me. We talked about some health things, and it came up that she goes to the bathroom, like, has one bowel movement pretty much a week. And I was like, good God, I cannot imagine what you feel like, because, again, this is one of your drainage pathways, is to be able to go poop.
Yeah.
And I was like, but she had a lot of very anxious energy, which she was nervous a lot about a lot of things. She also had she was holding on to a lot of anger, which is liver. And so she actually came in, we did a spinal energetics session, which is like a nervous system regulation technique, but it works with the spine, and every single vertebrae correlates, like in traditional Chinese medicine, to different organs. So we started to work on the intestines, and we started to work on the liver. She went to the bathroom. She started coming to me every week because she was going to the bathroom for like 3 days afterwards. She would go to the bathroom once a day because her nervous system started to be like, okay, like, we're going to reorganize how the information in our field is working. And now I can go to the bathroom. But then she would, put herself back in that environment with her partner, and she would feel really angry again. And then she couldn't go to the bathroom. And so it's like, when you're talking about people coming in for detox, I don't think they realize, and I think that's something that's unique about people that do more functional medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, homeopathy, like, you're looking at the person not just as the symptoms that walk in the door, but all of the history that brought them there.
Exactly. Yeah. And I like what you say about nervous system and emotional trauma work, because that's almost more foundational than detox pathway,
Mm-hmm.
or it is really connected, because if your nervous system is fight or flight all the time, you're running from a bear, you can't heal. You're just closed up, and you're not open to receive. A lot of times when we go through trauma, that's what we do, is we disconnect.
Yeah.
And we go into isolation. That's just our natural tendency. But what we really need is, we need each other. We need people, and we need hugs. But that's our typical mindset. But then, we've had a lot of trauma people coming in too. And the fact that people don't realize that trauma directly affects their nervous system, and then it, as a whole, affects their whole body, it's so important. And to have somebody to work with you on that is even more important.
Yeah.
Because it's just a vital part of getting healthy and well.
Well, and you really, again, like you said, can't do one without the other. I think part of the shift that's happening towards a lot of these more natural approaches is that people all of a sudden have access to information to be able to make a more informed decision about what they want to do for their health. So, I mean, people give, like, TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, they give it a bad rap, and they're like, they don't know anything about health. There are a lot of people that do know a lot about health that are on there, that are sharing all of these things. And so now people are like, oh, I have a different option besides what my MD recommends to me. And again, that there's a place for that kind of medicine. It's acute medicine. When if I'm having a heart attack, I'm not calling my acupuncturist. I'm not calling my naturopath. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to the hospital. And that's the difference is that I always kind of say like what's happened is allopathic medicine has been put on this pedestal of like this heals everything and it doesn't, but that's not the narrative that's being said. And so what's happening now is you're seeing like all this information, people being like, oh, trauma affects my nervous system. I'm like, yes, you should have been told this. Somebody should have, but if you don't have more than 7 minutes with somebody, how are you going to ask them about what happened in their childhood? Or how are you going to ask them about their relationship with their parents? How are you going to ask them? I had somebody the other day, we did a virtual session. So, you fill out the stuff online and we meet for the session and I'm like, okay, this was specifically just for spinal energetics. And in there, I ask like about trauma. I ask about these things. Nowhere in there did she say this, but we get to the session and she's like, oh yeah, I was basically kidnapped.
Oh,
What?
traumatic.
Yes, that is so traumatic. And because it's a part of our lives, I've had people say this. I watched my dad die in front of me. And they say it like it is no big deal, I think, because they don't want to make it like they don't want to drudge it up. They don't want to feel that again. They don't want to really talk about it a lot. They're like, when stuff like that happens, sometimes you're just tired of talking about it.
But then also your cells can actually adapt to stress.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you don't even know that it's traumatic. You're just like,
Yeah. It's normal for you.
fine.
Yes. Your baseline has changed and people don't know because it's their baseline.
Yeah.
So it's like, you can't really, if your body is doing all these things that are leaving you in a state of panic. I think for women, I see a lot more women that are more freeze and fawn, their system like holding, embracing, rather than like aggressive outwardly. But it does happen. But if you're in that state, even think about like that verbiage being frozen. Do you think your detox pathways are going to open up?
Absolutely not.
No. Yeah. Like it's wild. I think because of this surge of being able to have platforms, you get to share whatever your experience is and whatever you're an expert in or education or, whatever that is. I think what's happened is this age of information has also given back people more agency and feel like they have more, again, like sovereignty over their body.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
It's wild.
Yes. I want to go back to where you said how your client was okay when you were working with the large intestine and liver was back into her environment and she wasn't okay.
Yeah.
And I also see that quite often where I'll have, for instance, I had one patient who didn't know if she needed to leave the environment of her home with her husband because he was a big issue. And I wasn't going to give her that answer.
Yeah. That's such a hard place to be in, right?
Yeah, I was helping her with that emotional. I do some emotional work as well with Bach flowers and things like that. And then a little bit of, I think too, it's just our subconscious beliefs kind of go into that too. Where like, we don't really know that we think a certain way, but we actually do.
Yeah.
But going back to that one patient, she was continuing to go back into that environment, but then and she wasn't getting better. And a lot of people need to take themselves out of that environment in order to actually get healthy and well, because the other thing that some people don't realize is we actually are frequency beings, right? We are frequency. And so when you're around somebody who has a really low negative frequency, how are you going to feel?
Yeah.
Probably not very good.
Yeah.
But you can't get healthy when you're constantly around somebody who is like that. Whereas you have to take yourself out of that environment and that situation in order to change your own frequency and to know who you really are in the process of healing.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know who they are. They don't know why they're here on earth. And we can't, that's also a process. And I feel like personally with the Lord for me, but it's very important to know who you are, why you're here, what your purpose is in order to get where you want to be in life.
Yeah. Well, and how much I love it. I'm like, yes, let's go down this path because I have gosh, a client, we've worked together for years and years. When she first came to me, she was experiencing, like what we now know, because this has been, gosh, I think we've worked together 6 or so years, 7 years. And I feel like perimenopause has really just become this thing in the past like 2 years or so. But she was very young and exhibiting, I think she was in her, either like, she was like 30, 31, maybe. She might have been 29. And she was starting to show signs of perimenopause. And very like, she's like, I don't understand what's going on with my body. All these things are happening. And she came to me and I was like, I think you need to quit your job. And she's like, I am so unhappy in my job. I feel, she was like, how did you know? And I was like, based on what you're telling me. And again, this is stuff that I think when you start to become more sensitive and you start to become more perceptive and aware as a practitioner, it allows you to have insight into what's not just on the paper and what's not being said. And I was like, this career is not for you anymore. It's served its purpose, but it's making you a very hard person. And your body is really struggling with this because it doesn't allow for any, like she had shut down feelings. She hadn't cried in years. And I was like, she was like, I know. She's like, I felt this way, but I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I'm interested in this. And I was like, well, just start down that path. You'll know when it's time to leave, but start moving in the other direction. And so sure enough, I think within a year she left. And now what's funny is she is in a totally different, she's actually hosting women's events. She works only with women. She has a company. The event that she hosts is called Hot Flash Heroes. It's a perimenopause and menopause event. And she works a lot in like the health world, which was not what she was in at all. She was very much in a very corporate situation. And she's like, I would have never, ever in my wildest dreams thought this was not me. And she's like, but I realized so much of me I had to like shut down in order to be this person, in order to be making this amount of money. But this amount of money and this prestige, because she was very high up in her realm for how young she was. Just in general, but she was very young to be there. And she's like, I was like, I can't do it anymore. And I don't think people understand the magnitude that things like career choices, partnership choices, homes that you live in, environments. I paid for a long time for a very expensive gym membership because I wanted to be around people who were paying that much because that was their health was a priority, because I needed to make it a priority.
Yep. That makes sense.
It's just, I don't think we look at those things as pillars of your health.
Yes. Well, I mean, they stress our bodies out.
Mm-hmm.
We can't go on long with our bodies completely stressed out and expect to feel good.
No.
It's just
No. And it's like, you kind of know, it's interesting when I feel like by the time usually you're exhibiting symptoms and all these things are going wrong, you already know some of the changes that need to be made, and it's not health stuff.
Yes.
But you avoid it because it's harder. It's easier to take the pill.
It really is. It really is. It's hard to address our emotions, our feelings, our trauma. It's hard. And whenever I work with people on this, I'm like, good job. Good job for opening up and crying and feeling this, because when you start feeling, that's when your nervous system is shifting, when you start actually feeling and your nervous system is shifting. And that's what you want, because you don't want that stuck nervous system in the dorsal phase of the nervous system where you're stuck on the couch, can't move.
Yes.
And that happens in stressful states. And I always tell people too, it's like your check engine light is coming on in your car. Are you going to ignore your check engine light?
I mean, some people do.
I mean, yeah, some people do. But how long is that car going to keep going?
Right.
And our bodies we're the same way. You have pain, you have stress. That's your check engine light. Don't ignore it, because you're going down a path where it's going to be way worse if you ignore it.
100%. And even like, I mean, again, it's like all these little things. It's like we talked about, like the detox pathways is typically the first things to show up. Like your bathroom situation starts to change. Your skin starts to, usually by the time I feel like you get your skin involved. It's like there's a lot of other things going on. Like if you're having rashes or, breakouts, things like that, like skin is not the first. Like, but again, you're not sweating when you're working out. You're, getting headaches frequently. You're having a hard time waking up, but you can't go to bed. Like all of those are signals, but they become so normalized,
Yes.
I think.
Oh, definitely. I can't tell you how often I hear, well, I'm just tired. I'm getting older. No,
No, that's not how that works, you guys. Age
not
doesn't
how
actually
it works.
dictate how much energy you actually have.
Exactly. Like my goal in life is to age well.
No.
And I feel like that's the best way to go about it.
So then what are some of the things that you're doing to age well?
Oh, interesting question. I'm doing a lot. I do collagen. I do peptides.
Okay.
I do a couple of different detoxes, maybe twice a year. I've worked on parasite detox for quite a while. That's been a huge game changer in my health, but that's because I had Lyme as my history. I have, let's see, besides, exercise, good diet, whole food nutrition, a lot of people don't even know, hey, eating protein 30 to 35 grams per meal 3 times a day is huge for your health.
Yeah.
And getting the fats and the fiber in there that you need, that's huge. I would say that's probably the majority other than, the basic stuff. Like I
Yeah.
said, peptides have been a game changer for me, actually. I really do like them.
Really?
I do.
Okay, I love it. Which peptides are you taking right now? Do you want to share?
So I have done quite a few over the last couple years. The one that I really like for myself right now is the copper peptide.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's called the beauty peptide.
It's a beauty peptide. It's great for wrinkles, anti-aging.
Which, you guys, it's working because at the conference, I thought her and her daughter were sisters.
I've seen pictures of my hair a couple of years ago. I've never had thick hair. It's always been very fine, thin. You could see through it. Every time I go to my beautician, she's like, "Oh my gosh, your hair is amazing."
You're like, thank you. It's the copper.
My hair is thicker. It's growing. It doesn't ever grow past my shoulder. It's like, this is not normal for me.
I love that.
I know.
Yeah. Well, I think that's again, it's a new, it's not new really. Peptides are very much having their moment though in the wellness industry.
They are, but you're right. They're not new.
No. And there's a lot of misconception in that even of like, oh, we haven't really tested that. And I was like, listen, the amount of things you've probably taken that haven't really been tested that well, don't even come at me with that. Like,
I'm the same way. I'm
just like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, what are those glasses for this? Because that works. Like you put on those glasses, you take them off whenever you feel like.
Exactly. And find practitioners who actually have done all of the training in them.
Yeah.
On good therapeutic ones that are clean, right?
Yes.
There's a lot of that online too, is where people are selling them and you don't even know if they're clean.
Right. Well, and I mean, even supplements are like that, like all those, people ordering on Amazon and it's testing for heavy metals and it's testing for all those things. I was like, well, first of all, supplementation is not regulated. And that's what people don't understand either. Like they don't have to be third party tested. So really that's on like companies to hold that standard, which is again, why it's important to work with practitioners who find the companies who only sell to practitioners because they hold that standard and they don't want these things just being used. And, the just like anything else, you take too much of anything and the body is like, absolutely not.
Yep. And the amount of clinical knowledge that goes into them.
Yes.
It's scary to me too, because this years for you and I knowing all this clinical knowledge and somebody just buying whatever online and using it and they have no clue.
Yeah, they're like, well, my friend said this was good. It was like,
it was good gonna work for me. No, not necessarily.
Yeah, I was like, you don't do that with shampoo. You don't do that with skincare, and just be like, oh, somebody else this person used it. I'm like, you have different skin, you have different hair, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna take a probiotic that they're taking just because it works for their gut. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, it's just,
Yeah.
I mean, I get the idea that you're like, they had a good experience. I trust them. But that's why, again, finding practitioners that you trust is important. And I think because of a lot of things that have happened and a lot of things that are coming to light because of the information age, trust is low for traditional medicine right now. And I think what's happening is people are having a lot of success with alternative routes, whether that be, again, homeopathy or functional medicine, things like that. They're like, wow, all this stuff actually works. I'm like, well, it's always worked, but it's
Yeah.
just been silenced. So it's really, really cool to see a lot more people coming forward.
Yeah. Definitely.
I love that. I love it. I'm like it. And I think too, this gives a lot of people hope, so to speak, of like, even if it's not the norm in your city, even if it's not the norm in your culture, to maybe be like, hey, maybe you have a detoxing problem, maybe you have a drainage problem, that like you need to be an agent for your health. You need to be able to advocate for those things. And there's so many people out there that do virtual, like, telehealth things that, again, muscle testing can be done. It doesn't have to be done in person. You
Exactly.
can do muscle testing through proxy, which is a lot of like what I do for mine, and stuff like that, that there's just so many more options for people now. And I think I love that, you and I are not quote unquote fringe medicine anymore.
Exactly. I know it's nice, isn't it?
Yeah. I was like, guys, let me into the cool kids club.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, I love that.
You've been there and you've done that and you've gone through it yourself. It works.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's the other, I think, model with the allopathic versus the functional is, with the allopathic, here's a pill, take it, you're done. And with functional, I always tell my patients, I'm the doctor and you're the doctor. Like,
Yes. It's a partnership.
it's a partnership. And a lot of people don't want to do the hard work, but
Hmm.
you have to do the hard work. It's so yeah.
Yeah. And even just conversations, like people are starting to become, and I think that what's happening is becoming more aware of how we behave and where we learned that and how it was a coping mechanism. And then as a result, being like, oh, this is part of the reason I eat like this, that I avoid these things, that this feels harder for me than it does for other people. It's not that it's actually that much harder, but my body perceives it as threatening because when I was little, this happened, So I think as a whole, we're just becoming so much more aware of ourselves as a physical, emotional, spiritual being instead of being put into a box of just symptoms.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we really can't. We can't just, and I know we talked about this, but we can't just address the physical. We have to address the physical, the emotional, and the spiritual because
Yeah.
we're three. We're made that way, and one affects the other. So we have to address all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, again, to your point of like, if you don't, this is typically when things continue to persist, show back up. Like every little period of stress in your life, there's a flare
Exactly.
because your body never actually cleared where that issue is actually originating from. And so, like, some people will be like, well, I didn't want to get, like, for example, bit by a tick, or I didn't want to get, I was like, well, it's not about wanting those things. It's about understanding the terrain and the way that your body was already, prepped when you encountered an experience that was, triggering.
The environment
Yes.
of the system.
Yes. And so, like, how intelligent of your body to armor up and produce these symptoms so that it can be taken care of. It's not a bad thing that you're having symptoms. It's a response to your internal environment, your internal experience,
Exactly. Yeah.
so.
I have a good example of that actually.
Yeah.
A client came in and she had chiggers and just breaking out on the skin, bug bites everywhere.
Oh,
And we worked with her environment. We worked with parasite load, Lyme load, and took about a month. And then she said, well, I was in the grass taking photos, no trigger bites, nothing. I'm good now.
oh my gosh.
Sample of what's going on inside and
Yes.
how it's reacting to what's on the outside.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a study that I always reference this when people are like, well, I don't know, like if I believe that. I'm like, there was actually a study. It's now called like multiple personality disorder. But I think at the time it was under the umbrella of like schizophrenia. But they were studying this patient who was deathly allergic to strawberries in one of the personalities. And when they were in another personality, they could eat strawberries just fine. So their biology actually had not changed. So it's not their biology that's having the response, it's their system. Whatever consciousness or whatever version of that person was presenting was how they were responding, which means however you're presenting is the reason your body is responding this way.
Yes.
You know, and I think when you start to look at where you're like, again, science is starting to kind of meet some of this like consciousness or this like spiritual element, and that interface is happening, you're starting to see like, wow, there's a lot more at play than just my quote unquote genes that cause everything. I was like, which has totally been disproven. So, you know what I mean? It's like, we're just, I feel like on the precipice, like we are opening the door. Lots of shit is changing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I'm so grateful for you being here and for just like having this, like, again, like open-ended conversation around looking at health beyond your physical body and allowing the symptoms to just be the guide. I just love you, Dr. Keri. I'm so happy you're here.
What do you need? I appreciate it.
Yeah, I always ask everybody a little question before we hop off, because the show is called Be the Frequency. So we talk a lot about who we had to become or what we had to overcome, you know, again, like sickly child, like what did you have to do to kind of become this person, this version, create whatever it is. So if you're in an elevator and you're only riding up one floor with somebody and you have to give them the secret to leading a happy, fulfilled life, what would it be?
When I think back to my journey, I would say the very first thing that I ever did was emotional work. Went specifically with the Lord. I went through a lot of forgiveness. I went through, dealt with a lot of anger, and it's a huge piece. And I would say that is what really, I think, spiraled my journey into, okay, this is my passion, this is my gift, and I want to give it to the world. And so I would say that is probably the basis of why I'm here and doing what I'm doing.
I love that. Yeah. There's so much more, again, so much more to us than just the physical stuff.
Definitely.
So thank you so much, Dr. Keri. If you want to find her, you can head over to Alternative Answers NE, like Nebraska.com, and check out all of her stuff if you're in the area. Or again, if you want to reach out, have questions, things like that, she's there for you. Anything else you want to share, plug? Got any good stuff for the people?
I think just for the people who are really frustrated, who have tried everything, don't give up. It is definitely a journey, and keep going. You'll get there, and if it's about finding someone who you resonate with, or someone that can just come along beside you and help you, don't give up.
Yeah. Like we said earlier, it's about finding your team.
Yeah.
About finding your people. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Keri. Appreciate you. But until next time, everybody, cheers.